All right, what we got here is a massive buildup up at the Antarctica that David and I first discovered long about 2016. David, my brother, was still living at the time, and we was very concerned looking at the depth of how many federal Russian people had moved into that territory. And of course, when asked what was they doing, their reply was, well, we're going to try to engineer a new trading uh, a new trading post. That way they don't have to go to the far south, but they can go just basically through the Antarctica. I guess they was going to do this with submarines, maybe. I don't know. But maybe going to build bridges on top of the ice. I don't know. Or highways on top of the ice. But anyways, that was their excuse, give or take about 5 years ago. Today, now we see a different image of just exactly what they're doing at the North Pole, and it don't have nothing to do with the new supply chain coming into that region. What it's got to do with is a government that is steadily building its defenses as well as its offenses basically around us, to the point that if something was to break loose, they would have us surrounded basically on all four fronts. Let's watch this and see what your opinion is pertaining to the Russians, who said years ago that we would take the American people over and never fire a shot.
That they can land even their heaviest aircraft here, including strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons. The effort Moscow is making to upgrade its Arctic bases is massive. Inside the modern housing complex called a trefoil, the air commander confirms to me that even Russia's dangerous Tu-95 strategic bombers, a plane similar in size to the US's B-52s, can now operate out of the airfield here. Of course they can, he says. Have a look. We can land all types of aircraft on this base. A chilling prospect for the U.S. and its allies, considering Franz Josef Land is only about 160 miles east of NATO territory.
Now, does that look like that's a trading route that they're trying to emerge upon? Or does that possibly look like something else?
That's well within range of these powerful coastal defense rockets the Russians also showed us. They're capable of hitting ships more than 200 miles off the coast, a threat that worries the U.S.
We have concerns about some of the increased military activities in the Arctic. That increases the dangers or prospects of accidents, miscalculations.
The main reason why this standoff between the U.S. and Russia is heating up in the Arctic is climate change. As polar ice melts, the region is becoming more accessible, and Russia is moving fast to stake its claims. Much of that effort is led from here, the headquarters of the Northern Fleet in the closed military town of Severomorsk, which we also got access to. Russia has been upgrading its fleet up here for years. Its flagship is the Peter the Great nuclear battle cruiser, outfitted with an array of weapons to hit targets on sea and land and fight off planes and submarines. Russia has a clear strategy up here in the Arctic and essentially revolves around three different things. On the one hand, a very strong military, then dominating the northern sea route, and also tapping and exploiting natural resources. And Russia is warning the U.S. and its allies not to mess with that plan.
It has been absolutely clear for everyone for a long time that this is our territory, this is our land, and we are responsible for our Arctic coast to be safe. Everything that our country does there is absolutely legitimate.
Rhetoric that increasingly has the U.S. and Russia on a collision course in the high north, with Moscow so far in a stronger position. That the Russians have been following for quite a while now. They put in place a unified Arctic command in 2014, and the Russians say, and this is a lot, that they've built in the past couple of years more than 500 new military installations in the high north of Russia. And one of the things that really helps them with that logistically is they also have a big fleet of nuclear icebreakers that really helps them open up the Arctic economically and helps them build those military installations as well. So far from the U.S., there's been very little in the way of an answer, Jake.
All right, Frederick Blake in Moscow with an incredible story. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We're standing by as the House of Representatives prepares to vote on whether to approve a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Let's back up real quick.
Around three different things. On the one hand, a very strong military, then dominating the northern sea route and also
dominating the northern sea route. What they're doing is taking advantage of the melting of the ice up into that area, and because of it, they're staking claims to their territory, kind of like first come, first serve. And they may very well be doing a route up into that area towards it being less expensive to bring various goods on the southern route versus the northern route. But they're also thinking ahead in case there is an attack towards their military being able to use those facilities strictly for military purposes. It's something that the CIA and the Pentagon should have been on top of 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever David and I, my brother, first discovered what they was doing and why that they was doing it. They used the excuse that it was all about the trading, the trading towards bringing in goods and taking out goods. But now we're finding out that there's a lot more to it than just a new route, a new route. As we say here at the Windmill Ministries, things is really, really gotten out of hand right now pertaining to all these talks about war, nuclear. And may God have mercy on us all if this ever does escalate into this form.
And exploiting natural resources.
Makes me sick.
May occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines.
Gets them to where they need to be in terms of elections. They don't feel like they can cross Trump, and the chances that this investigation from a bipartisan commission would surface unfavorable.
And 40 killed by other blacks, not by the cops and not by whites.
It's the violence. It's the violence and the murders that are the enemy, not the police. I mean, yes, there are bad apples, but not systemically the police. The police are the ones that prevent people from being killed much more often than they're being the cause of that killing. Now, it doesn't take very long, Heather, as I think you'd agree, for cities to realize that they've made a mistake if they've gone about defunding the police, or if they've let dangerous criminals out in the street, as a lot of these bail reform laws supposedly do. I mean, we've seen the evidence of that here in New York, certainly. But Portland, Oregon, for one, they defunded the police. And then they got back on and said, wait a minute, we made a mistake. Now we're going to refund the police. So is there a natural pushback as people become aware of the effects of defunding the police?
Well, Minneapolis has done the about face as well, David. You're absolutely right. Nevertheless, I would say that I'm surprised that this is not happening more quickly, because the ideology remains so pervasive that is anti-cop, anti-law enforcement, that we seem to be sleepwalking through this trauma. Nothing is going to change, in my view, sufficiently until white kids start getting shot.
Very quickly, will New York City, we're celebrating the opening of New York City, so to speak, will New York City rebound without getting crime under control?
Not a chance. You do not have a good economy and then you get rid of crime. You get rid of crime and then you have a good economy. Low crime is the prerequisite to economic revitalization.
So. I think so. Businesses want to be safe, and customers that frequent those businesses want to be safe, more importantly. Heather McDonald, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Well, we are minutes away from a vote on the House floor for a probe into the January 6th Capitol attack. But how many Republicans will go along with a Democrat bill on that?
Be best, okay? Be best. Don't cyberbully people.
Half appointed by Republicans. They can staple Nancy Pelosi's.
Is Congressman Joe Neguse of Colorado. He's a member of the Judiciary Committee and co-chair to the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. Michael Steele is still here. Congressman,
it's pretty obvious that we're dealing with a society over here in America that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Whenever you have gatherings of people like up in Portland, Oregon, or in other places of the country, that make a unrational decision towards wanting to defund the police, and then once they realize what kind of mistake that they have made, now they want to refund the police. We have a group of people that basically does not know their ass from a hole in the ground pertaining to bringing law and order and safety to the American people. And because of it, it has brought that much more grief and despair in people's lives because of these people that claim that they care about us, but in reality, the only thing they care about is their own fat pocketbooks. The only thing they care about is saving their own hides. I've been trying to tell my viewers this for a great long time. Like I said a while ago, David and I believe it was in 2016, it may have been a little earlier than that, it may have been in 2015, that there was some sort of a special on TV, and after we both looked at it, analyzed it, listened to it, about a new trading route, we said, yeah, right, a trading route. Sure. Well, now, 5 or 6 years later, we're seeing that our instincts of Russia doing more with that area other than just it being a new trading route, now we're understanding now that there really is and was something to a military stance being used for their benefit and our disbenefit. There you go again. They failed us in 9/11. They failed us in January the 6th. They have failed us through all the school shootings. They have failed us towards allowing for all these drugs to come onto the streets, and now we have a drug-induced society. They have failed us towards not preaching the truth out of the Bible of what sin actually is, to the point that the majority of the churches have watered down the gospel in pronouncing that homosexuality and wife hopping and husband hopping and boyfriend and girlfriend hopping is just a natural cause of the human society. It has broken down. It has broken down, and if I can see it, don't you think the Russians can see it? Don't you think the Chinese can see it? Don't you think North Korea can see it? Don't you think other countries can see it? Sure they can. Sure they can. The only good thing that I can say about what they're doing up at the North Pole pertaining to the Russians, they would have to eliminate the Canadians first before they ever got to us. I don't know how that they would go about doing that. I'm pretty sure it would be a blood slot, regardless whether they was nuking them or coming in boots on the ground. But that would be about the only buffer or barrier that we have towards not allowing for the Russians just to come in and try to dominate us. We're living in perilous times. We're living in uncertain times. We're living in times that could have been prevented if the Reagans and the Bushes would have done the proper right thing in the White House after they convinced the superpowers that the world was not going to be destroyed by a nuclear holocaust. White man speaketh with forked tongue. White man speaketh with forked tongue towards telling one story to one group of people, but then going to war with Iran and Iraq, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and spending over $6 trillion on a war where Saddam Hussein never had no mass destruction bombs. And it's just one apparel after another that I'm seeing on a international scale that really and truly is, it's flabbergasting. It's flabbergasting. It's sad. It's heartbreaking to think that these people that we have paid all this money to, big money to protect us, has steadily allowed for various things to happen to us, from hacking, from the Oklahoma bombing, to 9/11, to the insurrection of January the 6th. It's really sad what the American government and what the American people that's running the American government has turned out to be. May God have mercy on all of us. Good luck to all of us. God bless you and God bless the United States. And as we end every message, we end it with the word shalom in Hebrew, which means peace.
Other organizations.
Are the states, Elizabeth, with fewer than 50% of adults vaccinated, is it
see that the commission would get the same level of Republican support in the Senate? There'll be a few senators that...
It's not Democrats and Republicans. We're just going to be Americans just fighting to the death those nasty Canadians.
View from Brookings and South. Or frayed ties, is it different than having supported Romney or Bush?
No, I just use my dog as a buffer for all politics. It works very well for me. And also watching that, if you're a young person that
some rain, and thankfully we are going to get that. Temperatures are toasty right now up into North Dakota, where we're sitting in the mid 80s in Bismarck. Elsewhere though, it's not a lot cooler. Temperatures in some spots in the mid to upper 70s out there. But take a look at how much rain we've gotten over the last 30 days. All this orange and yellow indicating very dry conditions. The darker the orange, the drier it has been. You can see that up into North Dakota, portions of South Dakota, even up into northern Minnesota. That's where some of the most extreme drought has been over the last 30 days. And we're going to get some good rainfall here over the next couple of days. Right now, we're already seeing some storms firing up here in North Dakota. A couple more showers and storms here moving into southeastern portions of South Dakota and southwestern portions of Minnesota. Now, it doesn't...
But if you want to play a stupid game, God, we can't...
Intelligence and then leading the impeachment. This is not a person that's
address questions people have. It's definitely true that for a lot of people, the barrier is cost. And we know these vaccines are completely free, but first of all, not everybody understands that. Second, people can't afford to miss days of work. So it's really going to have to be a kind of an all of the above strategy.
Hair safe like replace.
We made U.S.
You'll make a plan.
It's better and made of doing what's right, not what's easy. So when a
think that so far the campaign to get people vaccinated has not sufficiently
And all I had to do for that particular...
It's time for the strength test. Now test the strength, durability, and overall construction of your
Temperature control is so important when we've taken that technology and put it into the
Nations are consistent. Pick up your car. That
incredibly strong, and it just flattened me into the grass every time. I would...
This is the same amount of time as my first pancake.
Oh.
Seen this man? Wouldn't be scientific, Adam. Meanwhile, holding nice and steady.
And all I got was, great, let's do one more.
Wayfair.
Yeah, you did. And so did I. The perfect
To be done in reaching those people and helping them understand that vaccines are good for them and their families.
How do you introduce the larger-than-life GMC Yukon?
Anti-Trump, you better not turn on me. Eventually they did, but Hollywood covered up for him for decades as he abused and raped woman after woman after woman. So I find that even more disgusting in terms of Hollywood liberals.
Okay, one more thing is up next for you on the 5.
Power to treat COPD in as many ways as Trellis.
By an expert, you talk about the risk and potential profit and loss.
Should have used that before I hired.
In Spanish speakers, Latinos is one group, but there are also other immigrant groups where they don't.
Doctor, if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before
You're not prepared, the value of your money could be greatly at risk.
7 now.
Time for new reading glasses? Go to readers.com. Choose from hundreds.
Or an older family member, not our immediate family, he can't.
Don't get alarmed, Kyle. I ain't planning on
The exception.
The most reliable network in America. Thousands.
Adults are starting to fall off. Are you worried this might happen with kids too?
Yeah, I do expect a similar pattern, right?
Rebuild the country. If we're going to reverse climate change, we need 2 political parties in this country that are both living in reality, and you ain't one of them.
Wow, that was Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan just a couple minutes ago on the floor of the House of Representatives. That House vote on the bill to establish a 9/11-style commission to investigate the January 6th Capitol riot is now just moments away. I want to bring into the conversation my colleague, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell. Leanne, I have a cool question for you, and then I'm going to bring my friend Michael Steele in, who has a question for you as well. I think that clip may have answered it for me. The mood is obviously tense and angry and disconcerted, but what is the mood around Congressman Katko, who had the rug pulled out from under him with this very public campaign now against legislation that he was tapped to negotiate?
Representative Katko, Nicole, is in one of those most awkward situations where he has Democrats who are praising him. Meanwhile, Republicans are completely throwing him under the bus, even though he was told to negotiate this, and he did in good faith. And he actually came to an agreement that met most of the concerns of Republicans about staffing, about the makeup of the commission, and about subpoena power. So Representative Katko is in a very difficult district. He also voted.
I'm going to end by saying this. All these problems that the Americans is trying to solve and settle is not even going to line up towards being a fraction of 1%. If the things going on in the Middle East and the things going on in Russia decides to intensify to the point of an all out and out war. We're living, as I said a while ago, in very, very perilous times. Thanks again for letting me speak. Good luck to all of us.